Imagine running a tech company and you do exactly what Wall Street demands. You
Right.
cut your costs, you become insanely disciplined,
Yeah.
and your operating profit just explodes by like over 2,000%.
You're literally printing money at that point.
Exactly. You are
Yep.
printing money. And your reward for pulling off this absolute financial miracle, your stock price plummets 45%.
It completely defies traditional business logic. I mean, you win the profitability game, you cross the finish line, and the market immediately punishes you for it.
Yeah.
It just forces you to rethink everything you thought you knew about how tech companies are valued.
And that is exactly what we are looking at today. Welcome to this deep dive. We got our hands on a really fascinating internal investment review script from Q4 of fiscal year 2026.
It's just a gold mine of data.
Well, it really is.
Yeah.
And it focuses entirely on the state of the enterprise, software, giant Salesforce, ticker symbol, CRM. But honestly, as I was reading through this, it felt less like a standard financial breakdown and more like, I don't know, a thriller about the survival of the entire software industry.
That's the perfect way to look at it, because what's happening to Salesforce right now is basically the ultimate test case for the age of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
It's a massive incumbent colliding head-on with a totally new technological paradigm.
So our mission in this deep dive is to figure out what's really going on here. Is Salesforce this brilliant deep value opportunity because of that massive profitability? Or, are they becoming a victim of structural disruption?
Right, the classic innovator's dilemma.
Exactly. And whether you're an investor, a tech worker, or just insanely curious about how AI is changing business, this deep dive is for you, because this one source file provides a perfect microcosm for what is happening to workflows everywhere.
And to really understand that change, we have to look at the tension between their past and their future. I mean, the market isn't looking at what they achieved yesterday. It's terrified of what's coming tomorrow.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we need to start with the numbers to really grasp this bizarre financial contradiction.
Yeah, the numbers are wild.
They are. I mean, historically, Salesforce was the poster child for growth at all costs. They bought market share, they hired aggressively, they just didn't care about the bottom line.
Right, it was all about the top line.
But recently, under immense pressure from activist investors, they enforced some truly ruthless discipline.
Right, and the results of that shift to efficiency-driven profitability are staggering. The source lays it out super clearly. Over the last 5 years, their trailing 12-month operating profit, which is the core cash they generate from running their actual business, went from $500 million to $9.8 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a 63% explosion in profit.
It's hard to even wrap your head around a number like that for a company of this size. I mean, going to almost $10 billion?
It is massive. Under that activist pressure, their operating margins expanded from around 3% to about 21%.
Which is huge.
They essentially transformed from a cash-burning growth engine into a highly efficient cash machine.
But then you look at the stock price, and you would think the company was in free fall.
Right.
According to the review, the stock is currently sitting at $187. That is down 45% from its January 2025 peak of $336.
Ouch.
Yeah, and shockingly, it's down 17% from where it was 5 years ago, back when it was only at $225.
What's fascinating here is how this exposes the underlying mechanics of tech valuations, specifically the PE, or price-to-earnings ratio.
Let's get into that.
So the PD ratio basically tells you how much investors are willing to pay today for $1 of future earnings. During their high-growth land grab phase, Salesforce commanded a massive P ratio of over 130 times earnings.
130x.
Exactly. Investors were happily paying a massive premium because they assumed Salesforce would eventually dominate the entire world.
But the source notes that this PE ratio has completely compressed. Like, it dropped to around 21x, and at one point recently, it even hit 19x.
Yeah, which is crazy for a software company like this.
The author calls this a historic low on a normalized basis. But wait, just so we are totally clear, what does normalized basis actually mean in this context?
Oh, great question. Normalized just means Wall Street strips out one-time accounting events, so like massive tax benefits or maybe a one-off real estate sale, just to look at the true recurring earnings of the business.
Okay, that makes sense.
And even on that clean, normalized basis, the market is only willing to pay 19 to 21 times earnings. That is a brutal downgrade in how Wall Street views their future.
And the obvious question is why? I mean, if they're throwing off almost $10 billion in profit, why are investors sprinting for the exits? It's like watching a startup finally reach the holy grail of massive profitability, but the exact moment they do, everyone bails.
Because the top-line revenue growth has dramatically slowed down.
Ah,
They are stuck in this 8 to 12% growth range. So Wall Street looks at that deceleration, and then they look at the broader threat of AI, and they just panic.
right.
They're essentially saying, hey, your past profitability is great, but it doesn't guarantee your future security.
Which perfectly brings us to the concept of the moat. The competitive advantage that protects the business.
Moat.
Historically, Salesforce was like a physical toll booth on a highway.
Yeah,
If you wanted to move your customer data or analyze it or share it, you had to stop and pay the toll.
exactly.
That was their moat. But the source document explicitly states that Salesforce's competitive moat has been downgraded from wide to narrow. And that's a massive red flag.
It is a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Historically, that toll booth was built on system of record stickiness. They were the central nervous system where all your data lived. And the reason it was so sticky was because of the switching costs. I mean, if you wanted to leave Salesforce 5 years ago, it wasn't just canceling a subscription. You had to hire an absolute army of consultants.
Oh yeah, migrations were a nightmare.
A total nightmare. It took months of manual data mapping, recreating complex custom workflows by hand, retraining thousands of employees. The friction was just so high that nobody ever left.
But then AI fundamentally changes the physics of that friction.
Exactly. We aren't just talking about simple chatbots here. We are talking about large language models that understand code and database architecture.
Explain the mechanism there. Like, how does an LLM actually destroy that system of record moat?
Well, think about a massive, messy Salesforce database that a company has customized over 10 years. In the past, moving that meant a human engineer had to manually read the old schema, figure out what every custom field meant, and then write entirely new code to move it to a competitor's system.
Which is incredibly tedious.
Exactly. Today, an AI can look at that entire legacy database schema, instantly understand the relationships between the data, and semi-automatically write the scripts to translate and migrate it to a new platform.
Wow.
Yeah, what used to take a consulting firm 6 months can now be heavily automated in days. The pain of switching is just disappearing.
Okay, that makes total sense for the data layer. But wait, I have to push back on this a bit, based on the sheer scale of what Salesforce has built.
Sure.
I'm looking at these numbers from the source. They have over 150,000 customers globally. They have $72 billion in remaining performance obligations, meaning $72 billion in locked-in, contractually obligated future revenue.
Right.
Plus, they have the App Exchange with over 7,000 apps and a massive community of 4 million admins and developers. Isn't that distribution network, that whole ecosystem, an unbreakable moat all on its own?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you are absolutely right to highlight the ecosystem. That human network is the reason Salesforce isn't just collapsing overnight. That $72 billion in RPO is a very real buffer.
Yeah.
But we have to understand the difference between a durable data moat and a fragile interface moat.
Walk me through that distinction.
So the old data moat was your data lives here and the pipes are too tangled to move it.
Right.
We just established AI is untangling those pipes. Now, what you're describing with the 4 million admins is an interface moat. It relies on the idea that your employees know how to click the specific buttons inside our software.
Okay.
But AI is making interfaces completely irrelevant. If you have an AI orchestration layer sitting on top of your systems, a sales rep doesn't need to navigate a complex Salesforce dashboard.
They don't.
No,
Here.
they just type in plain English, pull the latest metrics on the Ford account, and draft an email. The AI goes into the dumb database, gets the data, and does the task.
Ah, I see. So if the human never has to actually look at the Salesforce UI, you don't need a certified admin to build that UI for them. The 4 million developers suddenly become a lot less necessary.
Precisely. The training requirements evaporate, so the ecosystem remains, but its holding power on the customer gets radically weaker.
Wow. So if the interface is dying and the data layer is getting easier to migrate, Salesforce can't just sit back and watch their toll booth become obsolete. They need a completely new strategy.
We do.
How are they fighting fire with fire?
They are attempting one of the most aggressive structural pivots in tech history. They are trying to rebuild their moat not on data lock-in, but on AI agent ecosystem lock-in.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Enter Agentforce.
Yes, Agentforce.
This is Salesforce's big bet to become the AI orchestration layer for entire sales and service departments.
Yeah.
And the adoption numbers in the source are staggering. Between Agentforce and their Data 360 platform, they have already reached $2.9 billion in annual recurring revenue, or ARR,
Yeah.
and it is growing at over 200% year over year.
Which is just an astronomical growth rate for a new product line inside a mature company. And the caliber of the customers adopting it proves this isn't just a gimmick.
Oh yeah, the source lists some absolute titans: Amazon, Ford, AT&T, Moderna, GM, Pfizer, and they just inked a massive $5.6 billion contract with the U.S. Army. Right? They're also seeing multi-cloud deals over $1 million jump by 26%, and massive deals over $10 million are up 33%.
Yeah.
But the technology isn't even the most fascinating part to me. It's the completely new business model they're introducing to pull this off.
This is the crux of the entire pivot. For decades, enterprise software has been sold on a per-seat subscription basis. If you hire 100 customer service reps, you buy 100 Salesforce licenses.
Right.
But with Agentforce, Salesforce is adding consumption-based pricing through what they call agent work units, or AWUs.
So instead of just selling software licenses to humans, they're essentially renting out digital employees by the unit.
Exactly. You are paying for output, not access. If the AI resolves a customer complaint from start to finish, you pay for that specific unit of work.
But let's pause and think about the real-world friction of that for a second. If I am a CFO, how do I even budget for that? With human seats, I know exactly what my software bill is every month. With agent work units, my bill could fluctuate wildly depending on how many tasks the AI completes.
It's a huge shift.
That is a massive paradigm shift in how companies procure software.
It is a massive hurdle, and it requires a total rewiring of corporate budgeting. But the upside for Salesforce is immense. If Agentforce succeeds and companies get comfortable buying work units, Salesforce rebuilds its moat.
Yeah.
They become the indispensable AI brain that actually executes the work. But if it fails...
Do they just become that commoditized back-end dumb database?
Yep.
Any outside AI like Microsoft Copilot or an OpenAI enterprise agent can just query Salesforce, pull the data, and bypass them entirely.
Exactly. They would lose total control of the customer relationship.
Okay, so if Agentforce is growing at 200%, hitting billions in ARR and securing Army contracts, why is Wall Street treating the stock like it's radioactive?
Wow.
Let's dive into the bear case here, because clearly the market sees a massive vulnerability.
The vulnerability basically comes down to basic math and legacy baggage. That $2.9 billion in Agentforce revenue is incredible, but Salesforce's total business is huge.
Yeah.
The source highlights that their legacy clouds, specifically marketing, commerce, and Tableau, make up about 25% of their total revenue. And those legacy areas are showing continued weakness, dragging overall company growth down.
So what does this all mean? I mean, this leads me to the darkest, most existential threat in this whole review. If I am a business owner and I am paying for traditional Salesforce seats for my human employees,
Right.
but this amazing new Agentforce AI makes my team so hyper-efficient that one person can do the work of 3.
Wait, I shouldn't say that one person can do the work of 3, so I need fewer human employees.
Yeah.
Aren't they actively cannibalizing their own core subscription business?
This raises an important question, and it is the exact paradox terrifying Wall Street.
Because if I need half the staff, I buy half the seats.
Yes, it is an unavoidable cannibalization. Salesforce is in a desperate race against its own success. For the stock to work, management has to prove that the new consumption revenue generated by these agent work units grows faster than the inevitable attrition of their traditional seat-based subscriptions.
Oh, wow. So if seat revenue drops by $1 billion, AWU revenue has to grow by over $1 billion just to break even.
And right now, Wall Street is highly skeptical that they can win that race. The source actually breaks down how analysts are grading this transition using a proprietary 6-criteria scorecard.
And this scorecard is essentially the heartbeat monitor for the stock.
Right. It tracks fundamental health metrics, things like operating profit growth, free cash flow generation, debt levels, and something called the Rule of 40.
Yes, the Rule of 40.
For those who aren't financial analysts, what exactly is the Rule of 40?
The Rule of 40 is a classic health metric for software companies. You take your revenue growth rate and you add your profit margin. If the combined number is 40 or higher, you are considered a healthy, premium software company.
Okay.
So if you are growing at 20% and your profit margin is 20%, you hit 40. It perfectly balances the trade-off between growing fast and making money.
Okay, that makes sense. So, looking at the scorecard in the source, it's been a very bumpy ride for Salesforce. Back in Q4 of 2024 and Q2 of 2025, They hit 4 passes on those 6 criteria.
Right.
When that happened, the stock surged over 20% both times. Investors felt optimistic that the balance was holding. But recently, projecting into Q1 of fiscal 2027, the passes dropped to just 3 out of 6.
And the market reaction to that drop was brutal.
A 30% fall in the stock price. It shows that the market is aggressively pricing in a deceleration of growth. Wall Street is basically saying, hey, your core seat growth is maturing, people are buying fewer human licenses, and your new AI revenue isn't fully compensating for the bleed yet.
However, we really can't ignore the downside protection here. Even with all this skepticism, the source makes it clear that Salesforce is not in freefall. Management has established a very solid financial floor beneath the stock price to stop the bleeding.
Yes, let's look at how they're defending that floor. Because at these depressed stock prices, management isn't panicking. They're buying.
Buying a lot.
They have authorized a staggering $50 billion share repurchase program. And in fiscal year 2026, they returned 99% of their free cash flow, which was about $14 billion straight back to shareholders. Management is explicitly going on record calling the current stock price a great buying opportunity.
And from a strictly mathematical perspective, their argument holds weight. Remember that 19 to 21x PE ratio we discussed earlier?
Correct.
When you combine that low valuation with their massive profitability, the source notes they are generating a free cash flow yield of around 10%.
Break that free cash flow yield down for us. Why is a 10% yield acting as a shock absorber for the stock?
Sure. Free cash flow yield is basically the actual unencumbered cash the business generates over a year divided by the total value of the company.
Right.
A 10% yield means that for every $100 you invest in Salesforce stock, the underlying business is throwing off $10 in cold hard cash.
Which is massive.
In the tech world, a 10% yield is incredibly high. I mean, most tech companies reinvest all their cash to grow, so their yield is close to zero. Because Salesforce has so much cash, they can use it to aggressively buy back their own shares on the open market.
And that creates demand.
Exactly. That constant buying pressure puts a solid floor under the stock price.
Got it. So the floor is secure because they literally have billions of dollars propping it up. But a floor doesn't make a stock go up. What is the ceiling here?
The ceiling requires proof that the AI pivot is working. Management has drawn a very specific line in the sand. They are targeting an $800 million quarterly run rate specifically for Agentforce.
Wow.
The next 2 quarters are going to be absolutely critical. It is a pure, unadulterated race against time.
Prove it or lose it.
Exactly. If they can show the market that agent work unit consumption is scaling fast enough to reaccelerate the entire company's revenue past that stubborn 12% growth mark, the market will reward them.
They'll get that premium back.
Yes. You would likely see that compressed PE ratio re-rate, meaning investors would be willing to pay a premium again, pushing it from 21x back up toward 25 or maybe even 30x.
So, to bring this deep dive to a close, we're looking at a tech giant standing at the ultimate crossroads of the AI revolution. On one side, you have a fortress of financial discipline. You've got an incredibly strong balance sheet, 10% free cash flow yield, a $50 billion buyback program, and a historically low valuation.
Very true.
That gives you a very sturdy floor. But the entire upside the ceiling depends completely on Agentforce performing a miracle.
It is the highest stakes tightrope walk in enterprise tech today. They have to replace their rapidly evaporating system of record data moat with an entirely new, unproven AI orchestration moat.
Yeah.
And they have to do it before their legacy subscription business erodes beneath them.
And if you are wondering why you should care about the internal financial mechanics of one software company, it's because Salesforce is the canary in the coal mine. They are showing us, in real time, the exact mechanisms of how AI will either systematically destroy or radically elevate the legacy tech giants of the last 2 decades. The shift from selling interfaces to human workers to selling work units to AI agents is going to completely redefine the global economy.
It's a fundamental shift in how work itself is valued and executed. We are basically watching the architecture of the future being built right now.
Which leaves us with something pretty wild to think about as we wrap up. We've spent this entire time talking about AI replacing the interface, making the software dashboard completely irrelevant for the human worker. But if you take that to its ultimate logical conclusion,
Right.
if AI agents become entirely capable of abstracting away software interfaces, will the future of enterprise tech just be invisible AI agents negotiating with other invisible AI agents, leaving humans entirely out of the software loop?